Welcome to our webinar, Why Professional Teams Choose JIRA and Bitbucket.
In this section, I'm going to be talking about an exciting feature of JIRA software called the Release Hub. Now, releasing is hard. Release reconciliation is a tedious process that's prone to errors. You have to check that there are no outstanding pull requests that need to be merged before you can ship your code. You also have to make sure that all of your builds are passing for the commit that you're using as a release candidate. And you have to make sure that all of the code on your master branch has been peer reviewed, and that none of your team have snuck in a ninja commit or branch merge straight to master and skipped the code review process. Now, because manual processes and developers don't mix, we decided that what we really wanted was an automated system that could check all of these problems for us and warn us if they occur. So that's what we've built. If you're using JIRA Cloud or any version of JIRA Server after 6.4, you may have noticed that we've spruced up our project pages a little bit. Now there's a little picture of a ship over on the left-hand side that will take you to our revamped releases section. If you select a release, it'll take you to a nice overview giving you a summary of all of the issues that are scheduled for the current release and how close you are to actually shipping. Now, if you hover over one of these little colored sections of that top bar, you'll actually see a breakdown of all the different statuses that your issues are in. But what's super cool about this page is this little tab called Warnings. If you click on that, it will tell you if there are inconsistencies between what is being reported in JIRA and what is actually going on in the source code in your Bitbucket repository. For example, if you have an issue that's marked as done, but there's a broken build associated with it, then that's going to pop up as a warning. Similarly, if you have an issue that's marked as done, but there's an unmerged branch with an open pull request associated with it, it will also give you a warning. And if you've got some code associated with an issue that isn't part of a pull request, JIRA will recognize that it hasn't been reviewed and again issue a warning that this could put the release at risk. Even better, you don't have to wait for a release to benefit from these warnings. You can go to the progress page at any time and view a list of warnings related to issues scheduled for the selected release. For instance, here we can see that one issue has been closed but has a failing build, indicating that there is possibly a defect in its implementation. Similarly, we can see a couple of stories that have code committed against them but no related pull request. This indicates that these changes have skipped the peer review process. Now, these are actually warnings. They're not necessarily fatal problems for the release. But the fact that we have a concise list that is dynamically updated and easy to browse makes the release process much more pleasant and far less error-prone. Now, if we pop back to the overview page, you can see that we also have this little View in Issue Navigator link on the bottom right-hand side. Now, this is really cool because if you click on that link, it'll take you over to the JQL search that's backing those warning queries. Now, JQL, for those of you who are relatively new to JIRA, stands for JIRA Query Language. JQL is an SQL-like language that allows you to generate lists of issues based on certain criteria in a free-form query syntax. Now, if we take a little bit of a closer look at that JQL query, you'll see that we've got this really interesting property that's being tested. Issue.property development failing builds is greater than 0. So what's interesting here is that the number of failing builds associated with an issue is being cached as a property on the issue that you can query. So this means you can generate reports based on the development properties of each of these issues. And it's not just failing builds. You can also query the number of open pull requests associated with an issue, the total number of pull requests, and the total number of commits. So for example, as a developer, I can query the issues that I have that are currently out for review by running this JQL query, testing that the assignee of the issue is me, the current user, and then also testing that the number of open pull requests is greater than 0. I can also do more complicated queries, like testing for my issues that are almost complete, by doing a similar query against the current user and then testing that the issue status is either in the code review state or the QA state, and then adding an additional clause that tests whether there are more than 0 failing builds. And this is especially useful in a team context. If I take that JQL query and plug it into the advanced search, I can share it with the rest of my team. Now, this works because that current user function that I'm using will evaluate based on the user that's currently viewing the query. So if I share it with a member of their team, that function will be replaced with their username, and it'll show them the issues that they have that are currently failing the builds. So instead of just querying my issues that are almost done but have broken builds, I can say, hey, here are your issues that are almost done. One of the cool things about JQL is that it's used everywhere in JIRA. So in JIRA Software, I can define quick filters that are based on these development properties. So things like has code for any issue that has more than 0 commits, or failing builds that have more than 0 failing builds, or open pull requests for issues that have more than 0 open pull requests. You get the idea. You can base your JIRA Software board swim lanes off JQL queries as well. You can also create saved search filters based off these JQL queries and share them with other members of your team. And of course, you can create gadgets and compose those into dashboards as well. So for example, here, we can see the number of issues in each project that currently have failing builds. And for developers and systems integrators, JQL is also heavily used in JIRA's REST and plugin APIs. So you can query programmatically for issues based on these development properties as well. So the end result of all of these neat feature integrations is more efficient tracking of your source code and issues. Plus, simpler releases through the Release Hub, and ultimately a faster development cycle, which means your developers and your team leads and your product managers and everyone else on your software teams will love you, as will your customers. Now, isn't that a nice love story? But I guess, even though all of this stuff looks really cool, it is just a story until we look at some of the statistics that back it up. So recently, we've done some analysis of our in-product analytics to really find out how these teams that are using JIRA Software and Bitbucket fare against those teams that are just using JIRA Software for development. And what we found is some pretty impressive stats. Teams that use JIRA Software and Bitbucket together release 14% more often than their JIRA Software counterparts. And they also close 23% more issues in the same period of time. Now, these are the statistics for teams of every size. But if you're a small team, the results are even more pronounced. For teams that are 10 users or less, they end up releasing 25% more often and closing 49% more issues than the teams that are using JIRA Software just by itself. So as you can see, JIRA Software and Bitbucket really are better together. And it is, truly, one of the greatest love stories ever told.
Thank you for watching Why Professional Teams Choose JIRA and Bitbucket. If you want to try JIRA Software and/or Bitbucket for free, click the Learn More button on the left. To see how to connect JIRA Software and Bitbucket, click the video at the top right of your screen. To continue on to the next chapter in this webinar, click the See What's Next button on the bottom right of your screen. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.